Welcome to the Trial Site News Roundup. Today on our episode, we'll be talking about the DGHS, or the Directorate General of Health Services, which has made moves to take a hatchet to the use of ivermectin nationally in India. This while positioning the unproven Tocilizumab, despite the success of Uttar Pradesh. So the question now is, how will the Indian Council of Medical Research and the All Institute of India Medical Science weigh in? Then we're going to talk about Merck, which, after receiving $356 million in federal funds back in December, have secured another $1.2 billion in federal commitment to buy its experimental drug upon reaching key milestones. And so, from Trial Site News, I'm Adrian, and our episode starts now. In India, it appears that just as quickly as select national health authorities included ivermectin in the national guidelines, so too has the recommendation just as quickly been rescinded. This despite what appears to be tremendous success in states such as Uttar Pradesh, as we of course have covered in previous episodes. This, of course, was the remarkable turnaround of the second wave of the pandemic, which included the use of ivermectin and doxycycline-based home medicine kits in Uttar Pradesh and a few other states. Now, back on April 22nd, the use of ivermectin was formalized at the national level by All Institute of India Medical Sciences, or AIIMS, and the Indian Council of Medical Research, or ICMR. However, in a national movement to hatchet that recommendation, the Union Health Ministry and Family Welfare's Directorate General of Health Services, known as DGHS, changed the guidelines again to cease the use of ivermectin and doxycycline for COVID-19 treatment, dropping all medicines except for antipyretic and antitussives for asymptomatic and mild cases. But this seeming power play perhaps represents a significant fissure between authorities and experts, as it reveals monumental economic, political, and medicinal tensions as the ICMR, the nation's main health agency in the war against SARS-CoV-2, has not yet approved these changes by the DGHS, at least as of the filming of this episode. So the new regimen. The DGHS edicts that in cases with no symptoms, there is no need for medication. For those people with mild COVID-19, they declare the new norm of self-monitoring for fever, breathlessness, oxygen saturation, and Roche's Tocilizumab. Although Roche itself has admitted the drug doesn't work that well and the study data is not strong, they recently declared that Tocilizumab is an immunosuppressant drug and it has been approved by DCGI for use as an off-label only in severe and critically ill patients of COVID-19. However, last summer, Roche did report after a study that Tocilizumab failed to meet endpoints in the Phase 3 COVACTA study involving COVID-19 pneumonia. While some trials have showed success, others have showed failure with this drug. Meanwhile, DGHS has also shared that steroids should only be used for those hospitalized with COVID-19, facing moderate, severe, or critical symptoms. They, of course, continue to recommend appropriate behaviors, from use of masks to hand sanitizers and, of course, social distancing when possible. So, now the question has been raised, is this change by the DHGS due to pressure from external sources, example the World Health Organization or others, or perhaps there's some other rationale that we can't yet see? Could it be that now that they have secured the maximum benefit, they now ask the formal recommendation for leverage in other strategic discussions? Time, of course, will tell. And of course, we will keep you posted on this story as it continues to develop. So for the second half of this episode, we're going to talk about an interesting case that has some suggesting brilliant corporate enterprising business prowess, while critics suggest it is an example of crony capitalism on display. Merck has recently announced it secured a $1.2 billion public commitment for up to 1.7 million courses of its still experimental antiviral drug, Molnupiravir, to the United States government. Merck has already secured $356 million of taxpayer money for another COVID-19 drug that they subsequently shelved. Now, some critics have suggested that this perhaps is why Merck attacked the drug ivermectin generic alternative currently under investigation by the US government as well as in the Active 6 program. Now, the US government has agreed to pay about $705 per course should Merck successfully progress the drug through phase 3 and to an emergency use authorization, or EUA, or regulatory approval milestone. So the question then is it crony capitalism, or is this just the status quo? Now, we here at Trial Site News have known that Merck sought to tap into and capture the $3 billion per year early onset COVID-19 market, and that the number could ring higher as well. But as we've written about on our website, the drug known as Molnupiravir, first with Ridgeback Biotherapeutics and originally developed at Emory University, was at the center of a whistleblower controversy associated with the US government. A civil servant insider with an axe to grind challenged the ever-growing handouts of money from the previous president of the United States Operation Warp Speed initiative. The public trough, however, still appears open under the current president, as they have been able to secure that sizable commitment for a fairly high price, especially when compared to generic drug prices. Now, previously, funds for the EIDD-2801 drug were rejected by BARDA for a previous $300 million request, which the story on that saga was reported by Science. Now, in this Science article, concerns were expressed early on about the drug. For example, an Emory chemist named Raymond Shinazi, who studied the active ingredient in Molnupiravir, fretted that his former company called Pharmacet abandoned any development due to the discovery of mutagenic properties. According to the Science article, Shinazi shared that the small chemical tweaks made to increase the ingredient's bioavailability and transform it into EIDD-2801, now Molnupiravir, are unlikely to change its mutagenicity. Now, as we here at Trial Site News have reported on Merck's bashing of its own product, Ivermectin, or Stramectol, declaring that there was absolutely no evidence that any studies show any efficacy, this despite the fact that 58 studies now show overwhelmingly positive data signals. Moreover, in a recent op-ed on TrialSiteNews.com, a concerned Pennsylvania-based physician wrote that the company helped finance an obscure trial site in Colombia, the one that conducted the questionable study showing the ivermectin produced negligible results. So of course the question was raised, were there any connections here? And why was Merck giving this small clinic money, the one conducting what has become a very controversial ivermectin study with a considerable indication of conflict of interest? Now, what is Molnupiravir? Well, it is an experimental orally bioavailable form of a ribonucleoside analog that helps inhibit the replication of multiple RNA viruses, including SARS-CoV-2, the causative agent of COVID-19. Molnupiravir, also known as EIDD-2801 or MK-4482, is known to be active in several models of SARS-CoV-2, including for prophylaxis, treatment, and prevention of transmission, as well as SARS-CoV-1 and MERS. Now, Merck has shared in their press release that the company and partner Ridgeback Biotherapeutics plan to share further findings from the ongoing Molnupiravir development program with regulatory agencies as they become available. And that, my friends, brings our episode to a close once more. As always, thank you so much for joining us on this program today. From Trial Site News, I'm Adrian, and I will see you all next time.